Welcome back to a new video. I know it's been a while since I've posted, but quite honestly I've been enjoying the league, and now that things are winding down, I've kind of remembered, if you will, to make some more content. There's a good amount of stuff to talk about. Mostly this video is just going to be a top 3, top 4, something like that, builds. At least that I played throughout the league and such, as there's still some time left, so people want to play these, and I think that would be really fun for people to kind of check out and enjoy. But if not, these are all definitely not Crucible reliant, so these could be things that you play like in a future league, which again, the next one's coming up in around a month or so, you know, definitely something to look forward to. League overall was fantastic. We really enjoyed it. The implementation of the league mechanic could have been better, but in terms of the rewards, I mean, there was some very powerful stuff to be had, and you know, definitely something fun for chase people. You know, people were looking for chase items, all that stuff. So overall, happy with it. Looking forward to what they do next league. In a week, we're going to get ExileCon. They're going to be talking about POE 2, etc., and that'll be really fun to see. Announcing beta start dates as well, which is fantastic. So in addition to this video covering these builds, I'm going to be coming out with an economic video soon, exploring a little bit more into what I did this league for mirror stuff, and also what you can do in future leagues, because I did say that I wanted to make a video on that, and so even though it's late, I think it's still important to do. And then as next league starts getting closer, either before the league or the start of the league, and kind of see how it goes, I definitely want to make some currency stuff, because I've been seeing like a lot of new player stuff going around where like people are kind of coming into POE from D4, or just being brought into the ARPG genre a lot in general, just because there's been a lot of talk about it. So I definitely want to put out some content there that'll hopefully help people out, and also to applicable to veterans as well, because you know, POE, I find there's always more and more to learn. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into my top builds for this league. So the first build I want to go over is Kinetic Bolt Ascendant. This is an instacker, and it's kind of going to pair with a Kinetic Blast variant as well, and they're both very similar. For the most part, I think just did helmet swaps and maybe a little bit of gear stuff, but for the most part they're pretty similar. But I wanted to kind of go over the differences between the two, is that you see a lot of Kinetic Blasts, but not necessarily a ton of like Kinetic Bolt players. And I have to say both are really fun, and they kind of do their own thing. Kinetic Blast is very nice because of the fact that you can get a lot of like multi-hits from afar, and you are able to kind of like get multiple explosion overlaps. Like the high end is a lot better on a potential target, because like if you fork a ton, then all of your projectiles will come out, and then if you're running like a Nimbus or something like that, they all come back in. Or even like Veg and Cascade, right? And it's just this whole big explosion-y mess. One thing that can happen with KB, believe it or not, is actually aiming, which kind of sounds a little funny due to its big AoE, but this is why I like Kinetic Bolt in the sense that, as you can see, when all the green is coming out, essentially, like the AoE for it, because due to its zigzagging, even here, like you get a lot of shotgunning here on the boss, where your damage just amps up a ton. And what I've found too with the shotgunning is that you get a lot of that going on even without a ton of mobs nearby, so it's kind of like you get more shotgunning with KB, meaning Kinetic Blast, sorry, and then Kinetic Bolt is kind of more like your more stable low-end version, I guess you could say, but both are very solid, so enjoyed both of them. And overall, they're pretty tanky as a whole, more so on the recovery side, because you just have a really large energy shield. I was running like Grace with Ghost Shrouds, as I think that was kind of the best way to go about it, as when you're running Grace and Ghost Shrouds, you get a lot of ES recovery, and you kind of dodge stuff, and then you can find out, you know, how to get physical mitigation from other pieces of gear, although granted it's a bit difficult, just because on a lot of your gear pieces, you're looking for a lot of energy shield, a lot of intelligence, and that can be hard to get in physical damage reduction. So overall for a build, very fun to play. Great clear. Not necessarily wouldn't recommend for bossing, but can definitely do some solid simulacrum content as well. I don't think I got to wave 30 on the Kinetic Bolts, but on Kinetic Blast, no problem. Yeah, I'd say those are great builds, and definitely will be around for next league as well, unless they get like massively changed in the patch notes. These are not Crucible defined builds by any means, so very nice. We're going to go and move into the next archetype. The next build I'm going to get into is Forbidden Rite Pathfinder. This is something you can do on an occultist as well, but I know this league there's a little more popularity in doing like a pathfinder setup just because of the wither changes and the overall pathfinder changes, because you can get a lot of wither stacks going. And overall, I found this to be best as a bosser. It was fine as a mapper, but definitely for the amount of investment, like it definitely wasn't anything crazy. You're definitely very, very tanky due to running like a stasis prison, etc., and just recouping so much life. I mean, your life bar is just a constant moving slash red like symbol going on just due to like recoup effects, etc. So you're just healing all the time, and it's, you know, kind of going up and down very, very rapidly. But overall, it kind of gets some exhilarating gameplay. You kind of feel like you're on the edge of death, even though you're not. And you definitely get a lot of damage going. In terms of like gameplay wise, you can see even through like the mapping here, it's not necessarily too hard. You're kind of just standing in place, just kind of hitting stuff. But definitely it does take a bit for things to die, because it is poison based. There's got to be a little bit of ramp there. But again, in terms of damage, very, very high. And this is 100% delirious, so it's some of the thickest stuff you're going to fight in the game, and it can still take it on, which is great. As you can see, like single target, solid and all, but more so it's more of a build about tankiness, right? It's definitely not a one-shot everything. It's just kind of more of a spray at everything. We spray it everywhere. You're chilling. And you kind of go from there. So definitely something that would be fun to try out next league as well, especially if there's any kind of new like endgame boss content, etc. Then this is definitely a very, very solid bosser. Just because of how chill it is to play. You can face tank a lot of mechanics and just heal through others. Degens aren't a problem as well, especially on like an Uber Maven fight. You can kind of just stand there, if you will, which is really nice. Granted, if you do get hit by like her beams or something like that, then that's going to be a bit of an issue because, well, she cuts off all regeneration. So just something to look out for this build, but for the most part, great build. The next build I wanted to kind of touch on was Tornado Shot. Even though Tornado Shot is definitely like very popular and such, I know there's tons of videos on it. I just want to quickly share my experiences versus like Elemental and Physical. I think Elemental feels a bit better at the lower end, like with Omni and such, in terms of gearing. Like it feels a lot better, and just kind of having like the Omni penetration stuff going on. And for whatever reason, it feels a little bit tankier. I think that's just due to like having like, I don't know, a bit more flexibility in terms of like how like your gear works and such. I don't know. It was more just a feeling rather than like cold hard facts to me, like showing you the POVs side by side. And you can kind of determine that for yourself, but definitely a really fun way to play. I think it's a little better for like Expedition, maybe just because like, I don't know, you don't get bricked by like one damage type, maybe like in a logbook, but even then, like, you can kind of just avoid that. So I don't know, it's kind of really up to you there. In terms of the cold, that felt way better. Like going physical to cold was way better at the high end for sure, because you get heat shiver damage and your build just does a lot with chills and freezes and such. However, though, the variant I was doing was very squishy. And it was very, very high damage, which I think with like something like Elemental Leads, like with Crystallized Omniscience, it felt a little bit tankier and a little more like smoother to play when early mapping. But if you're trying to boss or something like that, then that's where the cold comes in. Anyway, both are great. You can't really go wrong. If you're going for the uber high max damage, go with cold. I think if you're trying to get in on it, though, a little bit easier to gear, then I think Crystallized Omniscience is the way to go and do some elemental setup. I've also seen some Yoke of Suffering stuff as well, which I didn't do, which look really, really solid instead of just doing like Omniscience. And then also some Secrets of Suffering stuff, which granted that's what you're using with Omniscience usually, but each to their own there. What you want to do, you don't have to. It's kind of flexible in that regard, but just want to put my thoughts on that. Alright, so those are my top 3 to 4 builds of the league. I'm going to put POBs to those down in the description, along with some other POBs as well, builds I've played, because even though those are my top like 3 to 4, I still played some other builds this league that were really solid, and so definitely deserve some time in the spotlight, so you can kind of check those out. Keep in mind that none of these are Crucible required, so even though they might have some Crucible stuff, it's not like a mandatory thing where like, oh, I need this for my build or else it doesn't work. Meaning that, you know, if these things don't get changed in future patch notes, then these builds will still apply. So next patch with, you know, different league mechanic and such, then you could probably still do these builds, unless, again, if the patch notes are like, oh, this and this gets changed, right? So yeah, that's all for these builds. The next video will be on economic stuff. And we're going to kind of go from there. That'll be coming out soon. And then, yeah, we're getting ready for the new league, etc. And that's about it. Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.